You awake? Well, I'm not sure who's all watching this, but here we are to have a conversation about the amazing documentary that we've just seen on Sky News. And I've just watched it with a group of us from the Never Again Is Now team here in Brisbane. And I hope it's been helpful, and I hope it's now working. We've got 5 people watching. There we go.
Awesome.
What were your thoughts after seeing that, Wayne?
Wow. It was very clear. It is very sad to see the state that Australia is in. To see the world, this is our country, and to see, as Freya said, that future generations, their minds are being seeded on hate, guts me. As Warren Mundine said at the Sydney name, the Opera House incident almost broke him, and now here we are 6 months on. I always thought that, from Sydney Nain off, this will all be solved, it'll be gone. But no, it's getting worse. And so, and even that was filmed 6 weeks ago. It's getting worse from then. So, it blows my mind. And then seeing what Hayley and the team are experiencing over in the UK, which is even worse than Australia. Like, whoa, where are we going, Will?
Yeah. I mean, the enduring thing I felt actually was... I just thought, I'm so glad we're actually doing something about it, because it's easy to look at that and go, you feel utterly powerless. But I thought, well, we've actually started, and we started pretty soon. But it's just got worse and worse and worse, and it's clear to me that there's such a profound failure of leadership. I mean, I kept listening to Anthony Albanese, and I just thought, Albo, just lead, man. Just stand up and say this is utterly wrong, and name it, stamp on it, and unequivocally say you're a Zionist, because you are. If you say that the state of Israel has the right to exist, as he says, you then have to go, that actually makes you by definition a Zionist, Elbow. So own it and stamp it out. I thought it was remarkable, and my hope is that the vast majority of Australians actually see this and are woken up to it, because my experience is a lot of Australians don't understand how bad it actually is. If you're living out in the suburbs away from this, you don't really watch a lot of media, you don't see what's going on at university, it doesn't affect you. So, I hope people understand just how serious this actually is, and they wake up and do something. Yeah.
Now, I just want to check the technical setup. So how many people can you see watching there?
I've got 33 people watching on my, So shout out to Moises and Betty and Kalinda, who've all loved what we're doing. So, hey, that's awesome, guys. People, so feel free. We're seeing your comments. If you've got questions for us, you can put them in any of those platforms, and they'll pop up and we can answer them. So can see the crew there, which is it seems to be working. I tell you, the other thought that struck me, Wayne, as we watched that, was that it's like Israel has been the excuse for this hatred, because it's no reason. And I think that we have to. Oh, Haley's come on! Hey, hi, Haley. I can't hear you now. Okay, plug in. So we're so delighted, Haley, the very Reverend Haley Ace, who's been a great inspiration to the work of Never Again Is Now through the work that she and her husband Tim have done with Christian Action Against Antisemitism. Haley is joining us from the UK. Hey, can't hear you now. Haley is going to do this entire thing in sign language. She's going to...
Can you see her? So first of all, Haley, if you can hear us, on your Instagram now, you'll see that the live has started on the Never Again Is Now Instagram. there should
Okay,
be
I'll
an
go over
option
I
there.
will go over
Oh,
there.
you're on. We can now hear you. I had to add you
Oh,
to the
great.
stage. You're all good. You're
So
on.
I can stay
You're
here?
now being watched. Sorry?
You can stay
So I
there,
can stay
but
here. Okay.
to invite
Stay there.
your followers to
Because I'd
also
like to invite my followers so that I
Yeah.
can get more followers to you guys, which is
Yeah. And you should be able to share this stream directly. I'm not exactly sure how it works, but
okay.
here we
So
go.
can I go over to Instagram as well, or do
Sure.
I leave this one?
No,
so
I
go
think
to
it should work.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm just going to do that.
Do
This
both,
is very
and you just put your phone standing there
amazingly.
next to you. So if you tap the Never Again is our Instagram,
Oh,
you'll
this
see
is
us live
amazing.
there, and there'll be an option for you to join.
Yeah.
There as well.
So while Haley does that, isn't it exciting that we only had this idea from one of our wonderful volunteers last night to put this on. So shout out to Henry if you're watching this. And then we had to go and figure out the technology, get it all set up, and work it out on the fly. We're building the canoe as we head over the rapids. So it's just great. I'm so glad people have watched it. Yeah, thanks, Philip. The other day, yeah. Oh, Haley's gone. She'll come back.
What blew my mind was the word is incongruency. So as I hear Albanese and also the Human Rights Commissioner, and also the inaction of the police. So everyone, Albanese, Dutton, talked about that there are laws in place that are not being enforced.
Yeah.
So there's incongruency upon law enforcement, which shocks me to the core, because that is one of the bedrocks and the fabrics of society, that you've got to have congruency in law enforcement. We then had incongruency from leadership that Nova Peris called out. And Albanese was saying a lot of things there. I think Josh kind of snookered him in a way. So he needs to be consistent, because incongruency in what you say with a forked tongue is an absolute poll crasher. It'll crash in the polls if he does not follow up with very strong leadership, because as they say, the fish stinks from the top down. You've got leadership in universities. You've got leadership echoing his inaction, and we've got to embolster him, pray for him, that he gets wisdom, he gets gumption, and he gets conviction, and he leads from the top of the country, and that every leader follows with him. That's what we need from all our leaders. Same with the Human Rights Commissioner. She was fumbling. Unbelievable.
Well, it's the problem is that Haley's back. Hey, let me add you to the stage. There we go. Now you're on, Haley, and we can hear you.
Hello, hi guys.
Hey,
How are you?
Let me just.
Yes.
Yeah, did you watch that?
I did. I heard it because I couldn't watch it from England, but I logged into a kind of audio. What an amazing show. I wish I could have seen it. I wonder if they're going to have it so that we can catch up.
Yeah. It'll be it'll just sit on Sky News, and you can watch it on replay. We'll figure out a way to make it available to you. Maybe you need a VPN that can pretend you're in Australia, because it is geo-blocked.
Exactly. Sure, we can find a hacker somewhere.
So Haley, tell us, that was pretty disturbing from an Australian point of view. I suspect many people aren't aware how bad it is, but in the what's it like in the UK? Because it seems to be worse over there. Your experience. Tell us a little bit about what it's like for you.
Well, I mean, it's terrible. Antisemitism in the UK within the first month following October the 7th increased 1,500% in the UK. Security is a lot tighter now in schools, and it always was, which is heartbreaking. And most Christians, we never have to go through a process to come into church. We just walk in and that's it. But, most Christians don't know that what lengths the Jewish people have to go through just to go and worship on a Friday night or a Saturday morning. It's unbelievable. So all of that is increased. we're seeing a rise in this just evil, insidious jihadi movement, which is absolute celebration of who Hamas are, who the IRGC are. They seem to be able to walk around with impunity. Even actually, we went to a counter demonstration, because what we're trying to do is, we don't want to be aggressive in any way, but if there's only one noise coming from the media, from the street, and that is we have to eliminate the state of Israel, down with Israel, Israel's evil, Israel's committing a genocide, which clearly is not following the facts. We have to give another sound, which is why we give this other sound. So we did that on Saturday, which is what we do now over here in the UK. Whenever they march, we ensure that we have something, and it is all about peace.
Wow.
The kind of feel is, our love is stronger than your hate. We want peace. We want dialogue. And it just always highlights how much they do not want dialogue, how much they just, this is not about establishing a Palestinian state. This is about eradicating Israel. This is about continually demonizing Jews via the new like improved title of Zionism. We don't hate Jews, we just hate Zionists. Ignoring that exactly. Most Jews are Zionists.
And most Christians are.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so we were walking by, I just wanted to tell you this, we were walking by, walking back to the station, and the police came up to us and said, guys, you're being followed. We are seriously concerned about your welfare. It is our recommendation that you get off the street now. Like now.
Gosh.
And we said, we want to walk 200 meters to that station. This is Tottenham Court Road in the center of London on a Saturday in the daytime. And they said, you're being followed. You're being observed. We are worried. And I said, well, if you're worried about us, why don't you walk with us and then arrest anyone that might try it on with us? They said, no, that's not our job. We're here to direct.
Oh my goodness.
Because we are the law-abiding, want to do the right thing, we always capitulate. You know, it's always the law-abiding citizens who say, okay, no problem. We'll bend. We won't do that. We'll just let them crack on. But then the jihadists and the extremists can do whatever they want, threaten however they like, and the police are almost too worried to deal with them.
So now you've used that word a few times, and this is the thing I felt in that documentary that everyone danced around. You keep using the word jihadist. Now, it does seem to me that we need a serious, calm, thoughtful conversation about the fact that the energy for this comes from a theology of jihad and a particular version of political Islam that is committed to the eradication of the state of Israel, because it's an affront to the honor of Muslims, because in Muslim theology, once a Muslim has owned the land, you can never, it's always and forever Muslim. And the Islamic eschatology that says that really killing the Jews and the Christians and the infidels is actually part and parcel of the heart of that theology. So I mean, I feel incredibly uncomfortable even just saying that. And it struck me in the documentary, everyone danced around it. Now, how's that playing out in the UK? Because you have a much larger Islamic population. It seems to me particularly centered in the cities. What's that like for you? How's the conversation going? Speak a bit about that.
I think the way that we have framed social justice for the last probably 20 years has led us to a point where now we are so worried about sounding too far right, too religious, or Islamophobic, that it's almost stolen the ability for us to have an objective criticism of something that's problematic, because we so don't want to be sound like far right patriotic lunatics, who are football hooligans, who are racist.
Yeah.
So we don't say anything that even sounds a bit like it. We don't want to sound like we are against Islam, because we're not. My best friend is Islamic. I've got many Muslim friends. Not that I want to be one of those people who says I'm not racist. I've got a lot of black men. You know? But
I've got a token black friend. Yeah.
Exactly. I've got a problem with Islam, but I do have a problem with extremism. And in the same way that when the Westboro Baptist Church was spewing their hatred, do you remember in America, they were the ones who were very extreme, gross. Obviously, they didn't kill anyone, and they weren't trying to create the holy war. They just had this thing against homosexuals, right?
Yeah.
Every normal Christian group distanced themselves and said, this is insane. They don't represent Christianity. The Baptists didn't want them. They were like, no, we don't want them.
Yeah, that's right.
But the problem is with when it comes to Islamists, i.e. fundamental Islam, and the problematic issues within extremism, no one will speak about it, especially we're not finding many mosques, many imams, unless they're from Dubai. No one really is speaking about it in the UK because of the fear, number one, of the repercussions from their own group. Now, we have an amazing Muslim leader who stood up right at the beginning and said, this is terrible. What Hamas did was awful. He has now been subject to so much hatred, so much rejection, so much fear and threat that he is basically now a pariah in his whole community. He's lost everything. So it's like this bullish fascist regime that everyone is so petrified of saying anything, but then that emboldens them.
Yep, that's right. I mean, well, and that's how Hamas rule in Gaza. It's a rule of fear and then progressive indoctrination. And the thing we need to remember is that jihadist Muslims are not just killing Jews; they are killing Christians around the world. This ideology of expanding Islam by conquest is not just aimed at the Jewish people. So it's actually something for all of us.
It is. Well, they're killing Muslims as well. Remember, on October the 7th, they killed Muslims. They killed a lot of Druze. Yeah.
Well, and of course, the irony is, the double standard that's applied to Israel is, no one stood up and complained about the 500,000 Muslim Arabs that Bashar Assad killed in Syria, right? Like, who cares?
No one cares.
If a Jew's not involved or a white person's not involved, like, no one cares. Just,
exactly. It's fine.
Yeah. So when the Sunnis and the Shias kill each other, no one really cares. It's just, it's just them. But somehow it's genocide if the state of Israel defends itself in this war. I tell you what's interesting for me is when this started, it was like the anti-Semitism was unformed. They hadn't really on that side found their voice. And we tried to keep our strategy at Never Again is now is to not talk about Israel. We just want to focus on Australia.
Yeah.
We've done that. We've been very consistent on that.
Yeah.
But actually increasingly I'm thinking we actually have to address Israel. We have to, I don't know what you guys, I think you've been stronger on Israel right from the get-go. We tried to take a slightly different tack, and now I'm not sure that we were right about that.
But I think it's just feeling, because things have changed so much since October the 7th, haven't they? And I think our view was you actually can't separate Jewishness and Israel. They are hand in hand. They pray to Jerusalem 3 times a day. Any religious Jew, it's part of who they are. It's the same way as the Aborigines are part of Australia. We can't ignore that Australia and the Aborigines go hand in hand, or Māori in New Zealand, or, etc. So it's almost like by denying it, not denying it, because you're not denying it, you're just choosing to focus on the hatred. That's an un-Australian thing to do. And I think that was a good thing to do. But maybe as we all find our way through when we're trying to advocate for something. We generally get to that point of thinking, actually, you can't separate it because it's totally connected.
Yeah. And in fact, the problem, I'll tell you, the problem when you start talking about Israel as the focus is you then have to confront jihadist Islam, right? Like you can't,
Yes.
this is a religious war. It's not actually about land. There's plenty of land for everyone.
Yeah.
And that's deeply problematic.
Yeah.
Or confronting, like actually Kim, I've just put up a link on there. Kim Farnick's just shared it. Thanks, Kim, to the documentary Whose Land. There's a great documentary by Hugh Kitson, a British filmmaker.
I think I've seen that.
Yeah, I'm sure, and he's just done the latest version on the disputed territories, or Judea and Samaria, whatever you want to call them. So I think I find it, and I think this is the challenge we've got, is how do we have these deeply uncomfortable conversations in a way that's, and so maybe this is the question I was thinking about. We need to be free of fear and of hatred. So as followers of Jesus, we need to have these discussions, even when they're incredibly confronting and sound, I get called this all the time, you're Islamophobic, but actually we want to say everything from a place of love, don't we? I mean, the very heart of the Christian worldview is that we love people. So
that's our one job. It's like that's like you had one job, guys. This is all we have to do, really. Yeah.
I would say loving the Jewish people at the moment is standing with them and pushing back the hate and exposing the lies. Like that's just a profound act of love.
Yeah.
The more interesting question, or challenging one, that exposes the complexity of the ethic of love, is what does it mean to love our Muslim brothers and sisters in our country, right? And that to me is that'd be one worth thinking about. And I don't know if you've given that any thought, or if that's kind of something that's discussed much in your circles in the UK.
Yeah, I think obviously we have a large Muslim community, and I don't think we see it as rather than choosing who to love, we thought, right, we just need to have one standard that we love everyone in the same way, regardless. And that's it, rather than choosing how we do it. Now, the way that, it's kind of like, were we this vocal when the BLM movement was going? Did we go to rallies every single weekend? Because that could be something that people put under the microscope. Well, if you love, then why are you loving the Jews so much that you're dedicating your whole entire life to them? And you didn't do this under BLM, which is a criticism that has been, pushed to us.
Oh, really?
Yeah, wow. Yeah. And I think from our point of view, there isn't a global movement calling for the eradication of Africa, or the place where, or the Caribbean. There aren't university students in the West dressing up as a tribal person, as a Masai Mara person. It's just odd what's going on right now. But this Hamas ideology is not just in Gaza. It's now in London, in Melbourne, Brisbane, Washington. The Hamas, very dangerous ideology, has now spread everywhere. And I think it's a challenge to love anyone that is virulently hateful, whether they are Christian, Muslim, Hindu, whatever. It doesn't matter what their religion is. But when they have this hatred, which we're seeing comes so much from the left and so much from this movement, it's really hard to dialogue. And interestingly, I had a conversation with a chap who I won't say who he is online, but he is definitely not a friend he's not a friend.
Okay.
He's quite key in terms of planning the whole Palestine movement here in the UK. And he came over and wanted to chat with me. And I said, the thing is, we're both just human beings that come from a point of view that life is precious, but there are some things that we should be able to talk about. Why can't we talk? And he said, we can't talk. Well, we can, but you believe things that are propaganda, and you say, I believe propaganda. So he said, there are no tunnels, but you're believing Zionist propaganda. So we're now at this point where they truly believe that IDF are as bad as Hamas. The intent is as bad. So it's like in a marriage, when there's so much misunderstanding, that it's just broken down. It's like irreconcilable. And that's what the British found when the British pulled away from establishing and helping establish Israel back in the 40s. They pulled away and they said the issue between the Jews and Arabs is irreconcilable. Because they knew the only goal that the newly formed Palestinians have is not to have their own country, not to have their own independence. It is the destruction of Israel. And we've seen that for the last 76 years. All they have done is put all their energy into just what can they do to destroy Israel, not to build their economy, not to look after their children. What can we do? How much can we make our children hate the Jews? How many tunnels can we build to fire rockets into civilians? They've done nothing to build because they don't want to build. And this is, how do you have a conversation with that?
Well, it's so, I mean, at our rally in Melbourne last 2 Sundays ago, which was amazing. It was
which looked amazing.
Yeah, look, I mean, apart from the fact that it took 600 police plus the mounted police plus the riot squad to keep these hate-filled protesters aside within the safe space they created for us, it was incredible. Wow. Just so much love in the room or in the streets. But before that, I was talking, before all the police and everyone else arrived, we were there setting up, and I was talking to a number of the pro-Palestinian counter-protesters. And you're right, it's like they live in an alternate universe where October 7 didn't happen, no women were raped, it's all Zionist propaganda. And then I actually talked to one of the women. She's really, it's interesting how often it's the women are so fired up, and she says, I was brought up, if someone attacks me, I hit them back. And I said, well, I was brought up to turn the other cheek and forgive your enemies and pray for those.
Exactly. Diametrically opposed.
And it's this alternate reality. So that, as you say, that's why the British and why the UN proposed the partition. I mean, as the empires dissolved, partitioning people groups into separate states because of their irreconcilable differences was a common strategy. Think India and Pakistan. I mean, more than 1 million people died at the time of partition between India and Pakistan. And Pakistan, they are still waging a low-level insurgency against India in the disputed areas of Kashmir. No one cares about that.
We're not marching for Pakistan to be eradicated. We're not saying Pakistan must go in Germany.
Or India must go.
Yes.
Yeah, I know. Or the Catalans.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
We have we seem to have this. It's the problem in our culture is that you can't partition off. What do you do in the UK? Do you partition off? Well, the city centres of London and Birmingham, these are now Muslim areas, and you get outside the whatever the M5 is, and outside the ring road, and then Christians and Jews can live safely, right? Like so. But
it kind of is like that. It's actually become like that. There are some real places where right now they're trying to have Sharia law implemented seriously, and we're just about to push through a pre-blasphemy law about Islamophobia, which means you cannot criticize the prophet of Islam and talk about anything to do with the child bride and what that would mean, what we would call it. Obviously I can't say it because it's quite risky to say things like that. Although I also think, well, come on then, what do we live for then if we can't just speak the truth? Because it is the truth, and you know, you can't say that Islam is a colonial force when it absolutely factually is. Speak to one Iranian and they will tell you an absolute colonial force is the IRGC. They want
Correct.
to colonize. They have colonized factually, and we can't. These conversations can't be stolen from us. But sorry, I interrupted you.
Oh no, I think.
Go and lie on the sofa then. Sorry, my son's just coming in.
Oh.
Okay, you can in a minute. It's half term, but they are doing some schooling with my mum.
Oh,
yeah.
Lovely.
So he's just said, Mum, Granny is making me do my times tables, and I'm tired. But I'm on a call. It's important, darling.
You just need to tell your son that Granny is an oppressive, patriarchal, colonizing woman who's trying to stomp on his right to be ignorant.
Exactly. No. No, okay, let's sit here and be quiet, please.
Thank you for all the comments, people. I'm seeing them pop up, and we've got, I don't know if you can see this, Haley, we've got about 87 people watching, engaging.
Amazing.
So, you know.
I wish I could share it on my Instagram, but it won't let me share it because then we would get so many more.
Yeah, look, because we'll figure out the technology for next time, because unfortunately, this problem's not going away, is it, anytime soon? I mean, I'm traveling around the country, which people may not know, and you may not know, but I've resigned from my church. I'll continue to be an Anglican pastor, but not work in local church, because it just seems to me we're at this incredibly crucial time civilizationally. And
I'm so happy for you. Honestly, when we were praying for you I was like, no, I feel like Mark's not going to stay and remain. I think he's got such a bigger thing on him, and it will just come in stages. This is so great, because you're right. We're living in such historical times, such huge times right now, and it is not going away. It's going to be another probably year of war.
Well, so what I'm saying to people in my shtick is that we need to gear up for a 20-year battle for our civilization to take back the center ground. You know, we have to, as Josh did in this documentary so well, we have to expose the lies, push back the anti-Semitism and the hatred of the radical left, push back the hatred of political or jihadist Islam, and reclaim the center of our Judeo-Christian culture, because the Bible tells a better story, the Tanakh, I mean, the Old Testament that was Jesus' Bible, right? That's our worldview, comes from that.
Absolutely.
So we actually have an enormous amount of work to do, because that story and the beauty and the truth of it and its cultural and social and political implications have been lost from the center of our society. And nature abhors a vacuum. So in the absence of the positive story of how we should live, how we should govern ourselves, our history, it's just the young people have just been caught up in the story of the post, Jews are colonizers, the whole post-colonial oppressor-oppressed narrative, and the narrative of the left.
It's quite deep, isn't it? It's kids are not taught now how to think; they're just taught what to think, and that's it. It's as far as it goes. No such thing as critical thinking. But I think it's such a deep propaganda. Like, if you look at what Chinese children have access to on TikTok, which is really inspiring and creating these great minds, and then what we have on TikTok for our kids, and it's like some stupid dance,
correct.
Looking at cute animals. It's like dumbing us down. And it's really not giving. We owe our kids and grandkids so much better than what we're accepting right now.
Well, I think you and I will be okay because we're old. But what kind of culture will our grandkids inherit? What are we going to leave to them, right? And if we love future generations, we can't take for granted the culture we've inherited from the generations who went to war for us, right? Like,
absolutely.
So it's so 20 years, we're just getting started, unfortunately. And it's not going to get any easier anytime soon.
No, it's not. We had 2 weeks ago, I think it was 2 or 3, we had the Yom HaShoah event, the Holocaust Memorial, and we had about 5 Holocaust survivors come along with us. And what was unique is we also had the family descendants of Nazi perpetrators
you did
come along. Yeah, which was so amazing. And I was speaking to the Holocaust survivors, and I said, what do you feel like right now? It must feel so destabilizing, this world that we're living in. And they said it feels just like it did. But what we know is at least we have Israel, which shows the importance. Israel was, and I loved what he said in the documentary, Israel was not created because of the Holocaust. Israel is, well, you know the quote, I don't need to go into it.
Israel, the Holocaust happened because there wasn't an Israel. That's right. It was something like that. It was a great line.
Exactly. It was a great line.
I have a number of my Jewish friends here in Australia, so in Sydney and Melbourne, who are buying real estate in Tel Aviv because they feel safer in Tel Aviv than they do in Sydney and Melbourne. Isn't that insane?
Yeah.
Like, you just go, what world do we live in that this is the case?
We were having this chat this morning, actually, because I've been followed around by some Hamas members for the last couple of weeks, and I don't even make a big deal about it and I don't even like telling anyone about it, because I will not be silenced and I will not be bullied, which a lot of the way that Hamas works is psychological. They try and create so much fear. And I'm like, do you know what? I'm walking with the living God, and I will not fear. God will fight for me, and whatever will be, will be. I'm walking in his will, and if I'll go where he tells me with courage. And it's just this thing. And my mum was saying, you know, if you got to a point where you were really in danger, where would you want to go? And I said, the only place I would want to go to is Israel, because even though it's a war zone and every day Hamas are just firing rockets, because they have got moral clarity. They are a democratic, good nation. The idea of racism and apartheid is crazy.
Yeah, that's right.
I think you could say anything now and they would believe it. The left and the radicals.
So my daughter Freya, who was interviewed on that briefly, I don't know if you've met, you got to meet Freya at some point.
I would love to. We've done it on social media, but never properly. I would love to.
I
love her. She's so great.
I think we should do a now for all those you're now listening to me ideate and think out loud on the spot. But I was like, we should coordinate a trip to Israel from the two kind of from the Anglosphere movements and do something over there. But what I was going to say is Freya's just been on the March of the Living, which is this wonderful program where they take people from around the world to go to Poland, visit the camps. And, my grandparents, my mum's maiden name, my mum was Jewish, and her maiden name was Mustbaum. And all along, I've always thought Mustbaum's a very unusual name. I've never heard of many Mustbaums.
Yeah.
And so Freya was at Auschwitz, and she sent me a photograph of the book, the records from Auschwitz, and there were pages and pages of Mustbaums from Germany who died in Auschwitz. And I thought, well, that's why we haven't heard, because so many of most of the Mustbaums died. And I thought, and then she went on to Israel, and so Poland was really heavy. She went on to Israel, but she came away from Israel just so unbelievably positive. She said it's a young, vibrant country. She's 21. She says there are 20 and 21-year-olds fighting for their country. The sense of positive nationalism, and it's not racist. They're all, as you know, the Jews. It's not like a white colonial settler. I mean, whatever. 52% of the Jewish community are Mizrahi, so every color under the sun, but they're united in this vibrant vision of what Israel could be. And I thought our young people need that. I mean, I don't know what it's like in the UK, but here in Australia, our young people are kind of lost. We've got all this affluence and all this peace, and they're anxious and depressed and miserable. And I think vulnerable to all, as you were saying before, the disruptions from external states like China and Russia using the algorithms, using TikTok, sowing dissension, seeding propaganda, seeding this kind of self-loathing of our own country. No, Israel has so much to teach us. So maybe next year in Jerusalem we'll do. We need to bring this movement together.
That would be great. Amazing. I think the young people in Israel are remarkable, and they do have. What's different is if you drive along a street in Britain, you'll never see flags of Britain. The Union Jack or the George flag, because unless you were somewhere and it was like the Queen's birthday, the King's coronation, they're not around because they're seen as inherently racist. How can a flag be racist, first of all?
I know.
Second of all, you go to Israel and there's flags everywhere because they are proud. They're like, we have died for this. Our blood has given the foundation for this. We will not lose it. But they just need their allies everywhere to really help them. So even just like feeling like sometimes I feel like it's such a huge thing, like this hatred and this movement is so loud and large and relentless. Every day this week outside the Downing Street, there is a genocide, stop the genocide, all eyes on Rafah, they're beheading babies, all of this propaganda. They tell their followers that the Zionists are going to come and throw urine at you. We've already intercepted what they're going to do. Make sure you're fully covered. So they already just like put dissension. It's so demonic. The lies, they're just like the father of lies is just lying continually to create huge disharmony in an Anglo-Saxon country miles away from, Israel, that most people have never even been to. So it shows how bad this movement is.
And it's not like the demonstrations in Downing Street or here in Sydney are going to change the IDF's war aims and strategy, right?
Exactly.
I mean, this is a war. This is a war Israel didn't ask for, a war that Israel didn't start, but a war that Israel has to win. So
and they will finish it, and it will take time, but they will. And they, I was thinking about it last night. Shani, the girl that we saw, Shani Locke. Everyone knows Shani. They found her body 2 weeks ago, brought it back. She should have now been planning her summer. She should have been continuing to tattoo people. Ron Benjamin, in fact, I've got it, he's on my wall behind in our office. We have just the family members that we've met of these hostages, and we pray for them every day. And many of them are already have died because they were killed on October 7th. None of this should have happened. There was a ceasefire. This is not about a ceasefire. They don't want a ceasefire. They just will not stop until they destroy Israel. But we know Israel isn't going anywhere. What is your view, if you want to talk about it, especially if I don't know if we have many Christians? I know I've had this conversation with a lot of my Jewish rabbi friends, with Gog and Magog, Ezekiel 36, 37, the alliance of Iran, Russia. Do you want to go into that? Or maybe we should set that up to talk about Gog and Magog.
It sounds like a new sort of craft beer, but
it does.
Look, I'm to the disappointment of many of my more eschatologically oriented friends, I've not spent a lot of time or given a lot of energy to thinking about those things. I'm a pan millennialist. I think it'll all pan out in the end, and I don't think it changes how the actions you and I should take now in solidarity and love.
Absolutely.
But we could make we should have a conversation about that. That would actually be very interesting. Just you, me, and no one else listening, because it's quite it is important.
It is. And I think, but you know what? Because a lot of people ask this of me. I'm at a rally every single week. I'm doing something every single week. I'm in a shul all the time, as you are. And this Ezekiel 37, Gog and Magog, every single week comes up with somebody.
Really?
And all the time, whether Jew or Gentile, all the time. And I say to them, do you know what? No one knows all the ins and outs, but what I can tell you is, how does that story end?
Yeah,
It does not end with the destruction of Israel and the Jewish people. It ends with the destruction of the enemies of the children of Israel. So whatever, it's just kind of like a thing that I always bring around to building that faith in. We Christians know that the Jewish people are loved, the apple of Hashem's eye. They are his chosen people that he chose, they chose. And we have this familial love, like a true brother and sister love with the Jewish people, and we will stand fully and like really truly, because nothing else, not because we're trying to convert them, not because we have an ulterior motive, we just love them. And we can see how evil this is.
Look, to be honest, no one has spoken to me about Ezekiel 37. It's probably something to do with Australians, not even the Jewish community. No one. I mean, I think in Australia, everyone's just too busy enjoying the beach. We don't think about like end times. Maybe I just mix in the wrong circles. Bunch of liberal Anglicans, who knows? I think, and I'm thinking we might wrap this up. Not that it's actually so much fun to talk with you.
It's so great. Any questions? If anyone has any questions, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Questions? Can you see the comments coming through the chat? No, only me as the moderator. Okay. Where I would want to end is that we as Christians, we come from a place of love, don't we? Always.
Absolutely.
And
always.
As you've just reminded us, this great confidence. We don't know how it's going to happen, but we do know the end of this story. We know God is going to renew all of creation, that we are working with God in the Tikkun Ha'olam, the renewal of all things, the healing and reparation of the world. We know that love wins, that Jesus has danced on the head of injustice and of death for us, and that that justice and love and life will triumph. So that's
and as
where
sorry.
Okay.
No, and as Rabbi Sachs said, light always overcomes the darkness. Many people have said that. And darkness only exists when there is an absence of light. So the more of us can be who we are, proudly Jewish, proudly Christian, proudly, which does cast out the darkness. We don't have to start bending to the way that they do it. We don't have to hate anyone. We don't have to walk around with bitterness. It is hard. It is unjust. Everything about this is awful, but it doesn't need to change us. We stick with our allies. We continue being the light, because this is the only way we can push out the darkness.
Well, I want to honor you, Haley, because I think what you and Tim have been doing has just been absolutely marvelous, and I think
thank you.
I think your chutzpah and your backbone and your spine and your intelligent, thoughtful commitment to the love of Jewish people and of Israel is inspiring and wonderful. So
thank you so
much. Thank you, and bless you for that. And I'm just going to say, here's a plug. On the 9th, I'm up in Brisbane, doing this in Brisbane at the moment. And we had our Brisbane, the kind of core team who are organizing the event here, watching that together. So they're all sitting next door, probably bored to tears watching this Facebook.
Exactly.
Because they hear me waffle all the time. But they're
watching this?
Yeah, I think so.
Hi, guys. You're doing a great job. We're praying for you every day. Seriously.
Yeah. I think it's that we need to mobilize the silent majority. We need to say to Christians, now's the time to stand up. Never again is now. We can't wait. So for you in the UK, for us here in Australia, everywhere around the world, it's waking up the people, the followers of Jesus, to stand with God's people according to the flesh, and to stand and have courage and not. So thank you for what you've done. And if for anyone who's listening, come along, share this, like this, go to our website, neveragainisnow.com.au, go to caaa.info to Haley and Tim's ministry. If you're in the UK, drop Haley a line. They'd love to have you around for dinner.
Always, anytime, any night, you can just come in. I'll put my address online, and you can
Yeah. Why don't you do that?
yeah.
That'll be great. Yeah.
Mark, you're amazing. You're the one with the spine, standing up from day one with your not Irish at all, Israel flag, and actually saying, I stand for something. And you know, the fact that you having a secure job, I know this is a calling, but when we are called to a church, it's a big deal to move. So it's a big deal what you've done. And the fact that you're really listening to the heart of God, but it's still not always easy, because it's like, this is everything you know, and you know how it's going to be. And now you're going into the unknown. I think hats off. Amazing.
From a worldly point of view, it's dumb. Like I'm in this lovely church full of people who I love, and we love each other.
Yeah.
It's a tenured position, right? So I'm unsackable. It's well remunerated. We live in a magnificent Victorian mansion the church owns in a beautiful part of Sydney. And I love my job. I love the people. But you know, when God calls you to do something and to do what's right, you just have to do it. Like you go, life's short, man.
Yes.
You've just gotta, so you just have to follow God. You got to trust that He knows what He's doing.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely. And also, I want to say as well, I think the way, you know, when you talked about the fact that, you know, we really need to appeal to those with Judeo-Christian values to wake up the silent majority. I know you were worrying about, you know, maybe we should have made a bigger thing of Israel, but actually I think the way that you're doing it is really smart. And we are now having more British flags to show that these are British values. We're against terror. And this is England, and you can't celebrate Hamas on our streets. Thank you very much. You can't push Jews out. Thank you very much. You know, if you want to go do that, do it in a country that is autocratic and hateful, but you don't get to do it here in our values. So you've inspired us with that. So we have more British flags. So I think that as we move with the heart of God, with His direction, trying our good ideas, we'll get somewhere. But the most important thing is we're actually doing it, standing and genuinely.
So everyone must be getting sick listening to our mutual admiration.
I know. You're better. You're better.
No, really. Which is lovely. Because look, the world loves tearing things down and tearing people down. So thank you for everything. Thank you for coming online. Thank you everyone for listening. We're just starting this movement. Go to our website, follow us, stand up for Aussie values. Yes, Vanessa, absolutely. Stand up for our Judeo-Christian civilization and heritage.
Yeah.
Push back. We're leading the fight with love, people. We're leading the fight with love, and we'll win, because Hashem is on our side. And God bless you all. Have a wonderful night. You have a great day, Hayley. And
thank you everyone for listening to me droll on. Thank you for having me, Mark. And I look forward to, maybe we should do these more often and check in from the northern and the southern hemisphere. We're doing the similar thing. Yeah,
absolutely. And I'll see you. Actually, I'll send you a message. I'm going to be in the UK in August, so we'll have to catch up.
Amazing. Oh no, we must, of course.
Yeah,
yes.
Beautiful. All right. Before we launch into another conversation, we're like preachers who can't shut up, you know.
I know.
They're bringing the plane into land, and then they go, let's take off again and circle around a few more times.
And let's go on this point, down this rabbit hole.
So God bless everyone. Have a good night. God bless Hayley. Say hi to Tim and your beautiful family. Take care, everyone.
Thank you. God bless. And back to you.
Okay.